Ambassador, good to see you. After many years, it's another interview about almost the same situation. Now we have the special court in Hague. How do you comment that? Because many Albanians received invitations right now. So soon as the elections got over, not even over because still recounting, and we have some new invitations. How do you comment this?
Lately I've been critical of special courts in The Hague. As you know, back early on I was very supportive. I went to testify against Slobodan Milosevic. I was very pleased with what was happening in The Hague. I've been critical in the last few years, in which I think, poor Ramush Haradine has gone back a couple of times. Fatmir Lima has gone back a couple of times. There's all these, not threats, but there's always a lot of anxiety in Kosovo about, who's going to be called next, that sort of thing. It's 20 years after the war. I think, I don't think the Albanians have been treated as the Serbs have been treated by the court. I think there's an awful lot of potential people that could be called from Belgrade that have not been called, and yet from Kosovo there seems to be this constant repetition of charges coming up, and people getting called. So I'm critical. I'm critical now.
So is it the right time now after 20 years?
I think it's the right time to either get on with, what actually were they charging Ramush Haradine with? He goes there twice, and they never quite come up with proof of what the charges were. Same with Fatmir, same with others. As far as I know, the few Serbs like Nikola Shinovic, who was called and convicted, it would have been nice if Slobodan Milosevic had lived long enough to be convicted. But I don't think there's been balanced treatment between the two sides. The vast majority of the bad things, in my opinion, were done by the security forces and paramilitary types from Serbia.
You've been in Kosovo during 1998 and 99, and right. If anything would happen there, you would know about it, especially during the time when you observed inside in Kosovo and you have good relations with KLA and you have your people that would inform you right away what's happening. Do you think that KLA on that time was able to commit crimes as they are telling now? I see in some medias.
Yeah, no, were there individuals who might have committed crimes? Possibly so within the UÇK. My impression was very strong at the time and remains strong. The UÇK was trying very hard to present itself to the world as an army, as a military force that was obeying the rules of land warfare. They didn't want to show themselves as terrorists, as, guys in the hills doing bad things. As I say, maybe there were individuals who did bad things, but as an institution, in my opinion, the UÇK was trying to conduct its fighting as a modern army, as an army that obeyed the rules of warfare, that treated prisoners well, that sort of thing. So I just had no knowledge at the time, nor do I have any knowledge since then, of actual war crimes committed by the UÇK as an army, as a military force. As I say, I contradict you. Did we know everything that was going on? No. But I think if there had been really bad behavior by the UÇK, we would have heard about it. We would have been there to verify it.
So when that didn't happen?
As far as I know, or as far as I knew, no. As I say, individuals, if they can find that this person did this thing in this village, okay. If you have the evidence, go after them. But so many war crimes were committed by Serb military, by Serb paramilitaries especially, and yet, you know, who has been taken to the Hague for the Račak massacre? You know, who from any of those massacres has gone to the Hague? Nikola Šajnović, Slobodan Milosevic, and a few others, but nowhere near as many as should have gone.
Let's go now to the nowadays situation in Kosovo, the elections, where Vetvendosje is leading, and hopefully they will form a government there in Kosovo. I know that when Vetvendosje was a movement, you helped a lot, and you went in person and you were explaining to ANMIK administration to stop the violence against the youth in Kosovo who were asking for self-determination, because that was kind of confused time, trouble, no independence, and people were just got lost what's going on from international community. How do you see now, after so many years, when we are expecting Vetvendosje to create a government?
When I first met Vetvendosje, Albin Kurti, some of the others, they were a movement. No one from the American embassy, no one from most of the international community would speak to them. I was told they're a bunch of young troublemakers, they're violent, they're communists, they like to go out in the streets and make trouble. I was told they are anti-American. And when I talked to the young folks from Vetvendosje, I saw none of those indications. I spent a lot of time at the American embassy trying to tell First Ambassador, what was his name, Dell? Oh, come on, Dell.
Christopher Dell, yeah.
No, Christel, yeah, Christel. I tried to tell Ambassador Dell, you know, the American embassy should be talking to Vetvendosje. Oh, they're just a movement, they're just these wild kids. I said, no, I've got a feeling they're going to start growing. There's a lot of people here that tell me maybe they don't agree with everything Vetvendosje stands for, or maybe they don't agree with some of the things they do, but they're young people, they're enthusiastic, they want to make Kosovo a better place. I had no success at the American embassy. I was told, 7, 8 years ago, that if Vetvendosje became a political party and tried to win elections, then we would speak to them. Vetvendosje set itself up as a political party, registered, went through all the process, signatures and that sort of thing, and became a political party. The American ambassador, the American embassy, some of the other embassies still would not speak to them. When they got into parliament, when they had seats in parliament, when they did pretty well in the first couple of elections, the international community still refused to have a dialogue with them, find out what they really wanted to do. Okay, that's the past. We've just had an election. Vetvendosje won 20-some percent, 25, 6%. That's a good showing. It's definitely on the way up. I was disappointed with Vetvendosje some months ago when they had a split, when some of their young intellectuals left, and that wasn't good. But nevertheless, in the election, they did very well. Will Albin Kurti be the next prime minister? I don't know. I'm told in their alliance with LDK, this is probably what's going to happen. I'm a little worried about that alliance, whether it will hold when they start dividing up jobs and that sort of thing. Who's the minister? Who's the vice minister? You know, I am a little worried that most of the people in Vetvendosje, if any, have any experience actually governing as opposed to criticizing, being in opposition. That's worrisome. I wish them well. You know, whoever becomes prime minister, I wish well. Because if the prime minister does a good job, that means Kosovo is getting better, and then people of Kosovo are getting better. You know, for the last 20 years, I've been critical of the governments, each one, because I haven't seen the sort of progress and change that I think the people of Kosovo were expecting at liberation, at independence, with some of these elections. This election that we just had, some people see it as a new beginning because Vetvendosje has come to the front. I hope they're right, but again, what I'm seeing right now, I'm hearing right now, is that, you know, the alliances are trying to figure out what sort of alliance should be the government, what alliance should be the opposition. As I say, between the two major parties, LDK and Vetvendosje, they're going to have to decide who gets what. I certainly hope it works out for the better. But as of now, I'm a little concerned that it's still not a new beginning until you have a single party that has a majority, not just has to go into alliance with another party. You're going to have this constant renegotiation of alliances and who's the top dog. So I think we have to wait and see as to how it works out. I'm interested in seeing who is named prime minister and then who gets which ministries and how it goes. I personally believe Kosovo has too many political parties. You know, we were talking here tonight about forming another political party. That's not what you need. You've got enough political parties. I kind of like what we have here and what they have in the UK, where you have two major parties and one usually gets more than 50% and the other is very strong in opposition. But where you have 25% here, 22% here, 18% here, and the ministries are divided up, God knows how, I think that causes some issues that we still have to see how they're going to be solved.
What do you see now, besides the corruption that is immediate need to fight for against it, what else do you see that the future Kosovo's government needs to improve?
Well, as I mentioned as we were talking, I think they have to improve their ability to tell the international world, what Kosovo stands for, what they're trying to do as a new nation. I think that's very important. Explaining why 90-some% of the people in Kosovo are so happy to be liberated and now to have their own country. But that hasn't been explained very well to the world. So that's number one. Number two, I think, again, as we've discussed here this evening, the government in Kosovo has to really reach out and start dealing with the diaspora in a way that recognizes the importance of the diaspora, the size of the diaspora, but especially the importance of the diaspora economically and how they could help politically if they would treat the diaspora better. As a couple of people were saying, you know, there have been changes, beneficial, positive changes in Kosovo, and that's you can't deny that. Every time I go, I see different things that indicate that some things are getting better. But in my opinion, the big issues have not gotten better. Some of them have actually gone backwards. The energy situation, 20 years, they've been talking about, we've got to do something about energy, and it hasn't really happened yet. So there are still blackouts and all sorts of problems with energy. And until a country has a good energy supply, you don't attract investment. You don't attract either foreign investment or domestic investment. So there's still a lot of big problems that really haven't been worked on.
And one main issue now that is kind of obstacle for Kosovo to further develop the country and be integrated in Europe or have liberation of visas is the dialogue with Serbia.
Yeah.
Would they have to limit the dialogue or go further and talk also about the exchanging territories?
I have tried to follow the ups and downs of the negotiation process. I understand how anxious the international community, especially the EU, is to get dialogue to result in something. There's talk of exchange of territory, moving the border. In this one aspect, I think we are in a new period. I mean, Vetvendosje is going to deal with negotiations with Serbia, I believe, very differently than what the previous governments have dealt with the negotiation process. I don't think Vetvendosje, Albin Kurti, owe many thanks to the international community, which has, refused to talk to them for many years, been critical of Vetvendosje. Plus, Albin Kurti and the people around him, I think are very cautious when it comes to talking to the international community about dealing with the Serb negotiation process. I hope they have time to sort of formulate how they want to approach it. Because as we've discussed, they have no experience in that negotiation process. They weren't involved. So it's going to take them some time to understand where the tricks are, where the difficulties are. Albin's a smart guy, and he's got some smart people with him. Serbia is going to push during this time to move things along. I hope Albin and his team take their time and say, just wait a minute, we'll get back to you when we're ready to talk. The negotiation process is a tricky one. It's a difficult one. Serbia right now, I think, over the last 10 years since independence, has the big cards. And they play them very well with the international community, especially with EU and the European capitals. I just hope that Vetvendosje, or whoever comes in as the new prime minister, it might not be Albin Kurti, it might be someone from the LDK, it might be this woman, Vjosa, yeah. But whoever comes in as prime minister, I hope they look at the negotiation process with a lot of care, take their time, don't be pushed into anything by the international community. And I'm hoping that there is a solution there, because the present situation is unbearable. Yeah. But we'll just have to see. We have to see what the new government looks like. I wish it looked more different from the old governments, but again, it's alliances between different parties and different combinations, and we'll just have to see.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. It was so good to see you again.
Always
and
good
I
to see
hope
you.
you will continue to support Kosovo's issue there, because for 20 years you non-stop continue to help and I hope you will continue again.
I often cannot believe that it's 20 years that I've been dealing with the issues and watching Kosovars deal with the issues, and I will continue, and I'm sure all Kosovars will continue to try and make things better.
Thank you.
My pleasure.